Spotify told me today that my day list is goblin core and bards, so we're gonna design clown outfits for my Regency era mushroom Jester character, and that is the whole theme. We're just gonna work on figuring out what I want her outfit to look like, her primary outfit, and we'll see how that goes. Hi, hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet. If you feel like getting creative alongside me during this video, feel free to tell me all about it in the comments down below, tag me on any social medias, or share it in any way you feel interested or comfortable. I love when you guys get creative alongside me, and I would love to support you the way that you support me. So, with all of this being said, let's get into the theme. I believe it was the video before last, but don't quote me on it. Everything has been a blur for the last, 4 months of my life, and every video is every video at this rate. But I will link it up in the cards if you would like to watch it. But I'm pretty sure it was my video before last. I might be completely and utterly wrong. I finished designing and rendering my sketch for Trumpet of Death for Funguary, and she is basically a court gesture for my gesture. Happened in that video. I'm gonna keep saying it wrong. She's a court jester for basically the Mushroom Kingdom, and she has a plot to basically overthrow the current leadership, but inevitably she falls in love with the princess of the kingdom, who is Wrinkled Peach Mushroom, and they have a kind of not quite like enemies to lovers kind of arc, but it's something kind of akin, more of a star-crossed lovers, fated to be together, but everything kind of politically gets in the way. Maybe helping overthrow her entire family. Who knows? We'll see. I kind of want to make a little zine or a zine about it. It's just some cute little comic. I don't have the mental stability to make a web comic. It has to be something short and microdosable where I can just make one shots for my characters. I don't have the soul to keep up with an upload schedule for an entire webcomic. I would spontaneously combust and die. And I'm also not consistent enough to write a plot that would be acceptable and other people would willingly read. But basically, I know I based most of her character design off of the Trumpet of Death, and it just it spoke collar to me, the way that the Trumpet of Death mushroom kind of flares out and exists in a funnel shape. And that was about where all of my intelligence ended for the for the Trumpet of Death mushroom. And I knew I wanted the chest out, and that I wanted to use that as a way to exhibit some of the differences in the actual kind of working class and the upper class. I didn't do a super good job in my last video because I used the wrong marker pack and ended up using my pastels instead of my skin tone. And at first I didn't notice until I started layering and I realized things were just way too vibrant. But I am kind of leaning towards having her face be a pretty stark pale color, that clown kind of face paint with her makeup. And then having the rest of her body be a little bit more tanner. She's going to be from some sort of kind of casual, kind of middle class ranking. I'm thinking either farming or maybe a spinster kind of thing, working in tailoring outfits and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I know I want room to have aspects of her body on display that would indicate a difference in class and an ability to show scars and blemishes and all of those things that would be kind of unseemly for the upper class. Freckles from working out in the sun, sunspots, all those fun little blemishes that make us human, that make us ourselves, and have it be a further way of telling the narrative. I'm especially thinking for like scars and body modifications that are maybe a little bit more quote unquote extreme. I don't think cartilage piercings are at all extreme, but to each their own. But it's a lot less perceivably classy as you would think in this era, and so having those aspects of her personality easy to display, but also an outfit that can cover them to limit the offense to the kingdom when she's working her jester gig, is important, So an outfit that is equally capable of being revealing while also having aspects that are easy for cover up, right? And so as I'm working through it, I'm thinking through, like, how can I show skin and then cover skin in a way that would be practical to the narrative and I can utilize without it being an extreme over-sexualization of the character to show these body parts, while also kind of taking into mind other court jester aspects, different outfits that I could find from actual art history, people's clown OCs, more modern day examples of clowns, both horror shows and just kind of the more mainstream clowns, and taking into ideas what kind of motifs do I think would be appropriate, would be fun, and what do I want to leave out altogether so that I can maintain a sense of reasonableness for the type of environment I also want this to be set in. Wrinkled peach mushroom, as was seen at the very start of the video, does have a pretty frilly, fun color. I think that excessiveness in outfits is a large component of something that would be valued by the upper class and that they would enjoy seeing in a jester as well. And I also am not super familiar with class systems in regions where a court jester kind of situation would be a bit more common practice. I'm not entirely certain of the aspects of specifically able-bodied jesters. I know that disabled people such as myself would be brought in for the amusement of royalty at times. People with disfigurements is not a word that I like to use, but differences or conditions that make them different basically would be brought in. But when it comes to an able-bodied jester, I only really know the stereotypes that are common of the media, so I've been kind of trying to research and figure out what kind of sense of humor was typically anticipated, how far people could push the boundaries for humor without getting literally executed, right? Because as a character, Trumpet of Death is definitely somebody who is intense, dry, sarcastic, witty, definitely a bit more of a nihilistic, pessimistic viewpoint, definitely would make jokes about overthrowing the king in front of the king and not understand that it's not publicly acceptable kind of personality. And so that's what I've been looking into, and just how far those boundaries could be pushed historically and how I can make it feel a little bit based in reality. I do want to try and do effective research to make this world feel something a bit more natural for what historically could happen in our human lives, because so much of it is otherwise a bit obscure and odd. It's a fantasy world where everybody is based off of mushroom species. Like, they're all half mushroom people. So I'm trying to think of kind of more normal aspects of our real world we can be in touch with to make the oddities of the characters feel a little bit more fluid to fall in line with, and to create that sense of relatability. Because it's definitely going to have some... Well, I want to be anatomically correct to how mushrooms process their food and probably reproduce. I'm kind of interested in having those extreme oddities that make them feel very alien to us, things we are literally physically fundamentally incapable of doing, probably. I'm thinking leaning towards like all decomposing matter being just anything they can eat. They probably don't need to cook anything. It's going to be weird. And they're just on a carnivore diet, aren't they? I don't want to condone that at all in my work ever. Any extremist diets. So they're just going to eat dead leaf matter and stuff like that. You know, just absolute weirdness. Definitely thinking of having like a spore system for their mushroom parts to like do reproduction, and having a like no proper genital system, because I'm thinking that they evolved to resemble humans and then eventually overthrew humans. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Or mushrooms and humans kind of intermingled together. Maybe the mushrooms kind of consume the human race, and now they're an amalgamate species that are 50-50. So I'm trying to think, if I'm going to engage in more human social structures and hierarchies and things like that, then I want to engage biologically in the more mushroom components of the characters and having them be obscure and weird in those capacities, you know, the give or take of balancing the mix of mushrooms and humans and finding that line. So I'm not entirely sure. I have research to do, but I found outfits that I think are indicative of the ideas I'm trying to convey, and a level of risque and covered up that I'm capable of switching between. And the character design is going to fit pretty solidly into the story either way, just how it's built. The Jester situation. However, I'm trying to incorporate more of those mushroom motifs that resemble the mushroom itself as I go, just so that I can continue to emphasize it. And so I'm taking that into account when I am sketching out my outfits and trying to plan how I want them to exist on the body and be integrated into the character's kind of personality as well. So we just visually skipped over two ideas that I was not particularly happy with, and I don't think really captured the ideas that I'm trying to convey. The first was a very kind of flowy, side slit, straight, probably stark one color with puffy button kind of fits. That is like Trumpet of Death's nightgown. Like, definitely the nightgown vibe, not the court jester routine vibe. It's a bit impractical in terms of some of the weaponry I would have planned for this character. All of these outfits are impractical for combat, let me just be abundantly clear. But that one was excessively impractical. Like, there's like, this is literally the worst idea you've ever had, and there are better scenarios to be in, but we can tolerate and suspend our disbelief. First outfit was, where's the suspensions of disbelief? You're literally screwed. The second outfit was a little bit too ballet for me. I like the concept enough to want to explore it more later, maybe with a little bit more technical skills, maybe like a special event outfit. Maybe a people are coming into town, need to do the routine for a more broad or terrifying sort of audience, but definitely not like the stay-at-home type of stuff. It gives too much, I guess, kind of put-togetherness and a little bit too much like care into self-presentation. A little harder to cover up in without doing a kind of gloved sleeve situation. The fully exposed legs would need some sort of pattern. And at that point, I feel like there'd be too much clashing, too many elements maybe. I'm just not entirely sure. Although I do really like the concept of the puffy stick out skirt and then having the fringe just be an emulation of the collar, or having the skirt look like an upside down Trumpet of Death mushroom. I do like the idea. I just think it's not practical for the entire kind of world building approach that I'm trying to take. Again, I also don't want my character to be too much of an overload to your senses. I want the patterns to be clownish. I want them to evoke the feelings of a clown. I want her responsibilities and her existence to be clear, but I want a good breakup of the textures and the skin and enough consistency in the patterns that it's not I Spy. Like, I don't want to play I Spy. I played enough of it as a kid. I'm good. I don't want to do it anymore. And I think having bits of skin exposed so that we can kind of have that breakup of all of the fabric makes sense. So my third outfit, the one with the really long side cape and the alternating size of the outfit, did seem pretty solid to me initially as a plan, and I liked the asymmetrical aspect that I was thinking of with this outfit. So what the plan was for the cape to kind of come off on one side and to emulate kind of the kingdom crown. That is not completely planned yet, but I wanted the fringe of it to have strong arches that I could put into some sort of kind of royal fit aspect, and then to have that side line up with a sleeveless arm, and then the other arm to have the sleeve, so that, you know, it's an asymmetrical. Wow. So it's an asymmetrical pattern, and you have to bounce your eyes around to kind of follow the components. And I thought it was funky enough that it wouldn't be too overwhelming, too consuming, too distracting, but kind of covered enough that I could cover bodily components without it being like weird. Like, it would make sense for the fit, you know? But it would also not make sense if literally anybody else were to have like worn the outfit, right? You know, it only makes sense because it was her. I also felt like this outfit had potential for hiding some fun weapons, and that could then make further sense for the fact that she is planning to overthrow the government. However, I just wasn't jiving with it, and while it is flamboyant in its own way, it didn't give all of the personality that I wanted it to, and I kind of started to think it was partially the pose when it came to the outfit design. I needed to think of how she would carry herself and present herself as a character a little bit more and design the outfit according to that a touch, and then kind of go into the flat, straight, head-on classic character design kind of turnaround pose and see how I feel about it then. So I started by doing a basic sketch of the body and very aggressively overemphasizing the hip locations. I wanted to have a bare minimum stick out point for the outfit, and I just did that by extending the location of the hips just a little bit. For the outfits, I am extending the arms out to the side just so that I can have it away from the torso and get a better view of like the outfit. For the over exemplified hips, I then kind of thought of the basic pattern for a single kind of segment of the Trumpet of Death mushroom and just kind of put that there, you know, as a very basic placeholder for a hip accessory. I wanted it obvious to myself that that was something that I wanted to consider. However, I didn't want to put effort into designing it immediately. I wanted it to fit with the rest of the outfit enough, but be a part of it. You know, I want kind of a flair. I want a little bit of drama. And as I continued to go, I started thinking about kind of trailing components, capes, classic magic tricks kind of things, like people, you know, like disappearing behind capes and kind of like having completely different outfits on. I thought it could be a fun kind of motif or a little magic trick to incorporate later. So I just kind of started going with the feeling that I was getting for the pose, the outfit, and the character. And she has a lot of kind of stars and kind of night sky themes on her face makeup, stars around her eyes, stars on her breast coming out of her corset that I have in the original design drawing. And I wanted to incorporate those a little bit more and have more dangly, jewelry, clanky components. I love a clanky outfit, okay? I love an outfit that just talks to you when you enter a room. Horrible for a spy, horrible for someone overthrowing the government, but appropriate for a jester. And I think it makes sense to design the outfit so that the hip stick out kind of puffy thingies and that back kind of billowy cape with the clankies is just like a removable component, like basically velcroed on, right? Just rip it off, drop it, and you still have a fun outfit that will continue to show the court gesture kind of energy. Oh wow, it's just gonna be jester forever. I'm never getting the word jester right. To continue showing the kind of jester position, but also can be removed for better mobility, fluidity, for different stunts, skits, whatever. And also have that flair, that fun, that snazz, you know? I want snazz, you know? And her collar is so massive, the Trumpet of Death collar I have. It almost makes the fact that she's wearing a corset irrelevant because you can hardly see the breast in most of my recent sketches for her, you know? They were super obvious in the initial sketch, but all of my other ones since then, like, they're hanging down past the collarbones and you can't really see the top of the chest. Haven't decided how I want to do that yet, but as far as like the actual design component goes and for like comics and little doodles and stuff, I think it makes sense to have it exemplified all the way down to the top just so that I don't need to worry about those proportions, you know? It's a very obvious character design element, so she'll stick out super obviously. And even if I'm not completely consistent in her outfit, it will be super obvious who she is based on hair color and that massive, massive collar. So, big puffy sleeves, though, cinched at the wrist. As much as I'm a bell sleeve person, I don't like pressure around any kind of points like my wrist. I can't have a tight sleeve. It makes me incredibly anxious and I tend to panic. It doesn't make sense for somebody who is doing like a complete routine. So I'm thinking a loose cuff, you know, it's not skin tight, but the puffy, puffy bell that you can hide a bunch of stuff in is not completely opened and accessible for things to just like fall out on the floor. You know, you have to put effort into it, right? So, big collar, big pants with diamond shapes that'll look super cute with the stars because when the stars are cut off by the rest of the outfit, you know, they just have the little triangle ends. I think it's going to be adorable. And I think it is generally the right direction. Also, the multiple layers, the corset over the leotard slash maybe kind of like cinched under top. I don't know. The pants are either tucked under something or they are super, super tight at the top and they are like full length leg warmers. I'm not sure. I kind of want to have that cutaway though. So when you draw the hips, right, you draw like the top of the hip bone to the V of the like genital region, then back up to the hip bone. And then you draw those triangles that connect from the bottom of the genital region straight out and then up, right? You have that triangle that the thighs are attached to, right? Because there's like a muscle region there where there's not a lot of bone. I kind of want that to be a cutout. And I'm not sure how I want to approach that. I'm not sure if the sleeves are the weirdest outfit on the planet where it's like a cutout shirt, like an off the shoulder puffy sleeve unit that then has a cutout and goes all the way to the bottom of the like legs. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking it through and I haven't come to a conclusion because I'm having way too much fun with the rest of the outfit. And the practicality of like if the sleeves are completely separate slash if the pants are completely separate has not completely like been fleshed out yet. because I can see bonus points or practicality to each of the different kind of decisions or options. So if it is all one unit, it is super easy to remove, and she can have a much more practical outfit underneath that's not flamboyant, like a dark full body suit that she can like navigate and sneak around in. And it is not impractical and silly, but at the same time, it is so goofy to think of an off the shoulder, puffy sleeved, one piece unit with upper thigh slits that I genuinely do not know which of these ideas is more impractical and goofy, but as a design, I really like the way it looks. I haven't incorporated the thigh slit region, hip slit yet. I've instead been focusing on just pretending it's part of the pattern while I try and think it through, because at least then it looks like the pants are tucked in, like they're uber high-waisted, like goes to the bottom of the rib cage, right? And from the bottom of the rib cage, maybe like that's where the waistband is, and the leotard and corset are over it, which in my opinion actually does kind of make sense because the pants are extremely baggy, and theoretically she's doing stunts. Her entire job is to make the court laugh at her, right? And so who knows what type of thing she's doing. It makes sense to have the waistband super high up and cinched in by two different pieces so that she's not like literally losing her pants doing things. And as somebody who also wears extremely high-waisted pants, it makes sense. And I almost always have something like layered over on the top. I don't usually find a shirt that's cropped at the waistband. It usually hangs over. You can't tell where my pants end, right? And that might be because I have a small torso. I genuinely do not know. But it makes sense to me that, the pants, you can't really see the waistband. You want something sturdy. You want something with a lot of reliability. And you want something that you can have accidents in without it being a complete show of your ass, like literally, right? So I'm seeing potential for the fit decision, and I'm really, really liking it. And I'm having fun with this design overall. I think it's a good idea. I think it is definitely leaning into the character more. And because I'm planning to have the sleeves off the shoulder regardless of if they are literally arm warmers, detached sleeves or not, they can be kind of tugged down to show scars, tugged up to be properly on the shoulder during some scenes, tugged off when like in a casual environment. Because I'm one of those people who like cannot have things in their armpits. Like I can't wear a shirt that like hugs the region right there. And so it can be worn up for like comfort reasons, but like, I don't know. I have that pet peeve, and then I have that pet peeve giving other people things that are then like in that region. I don't know. It's weird, but like I want everybody to be in like a loose sleeve shirt or a tank top or something, because like I just like practically mentally I'm like, ew, I hate when something's there. And I don't know. So it's kind of also just a weird kind of pet peeve habit of mine, but it makes sense to me. Like I'm logicking my making her hot but not super exposed, okay? Like I'm thinking it through and I'm trying to justify my decisions. Now, the justifications may not be like super intelligent, but as long as I can justify it, I think that I'm entitled to making my hot clown girl however I want, right? I can defend myself, and it might not be the best defense, but I could still defend myself, and that's good enough for me, because I do really like this idea, and it is the best of the ideas in my opinion so far. However, if you disagree with me, I would love to know which one you want more, like want to see more of, like more, and why you like it more specifically. Like what about it is speaking to you based on what I've told you so far about the character, their personality, the way I'm talking myself through the outfits. Like why do you like the other one more? I'm curious, I'm interested, and I mean, I love opinions, so give it to me. I'm not going to be mad. Once I had gotten through the mini sketch for the overall bigger outfit, the one where the arms are straight out, I went through it with a darker blue pencil. Well, it's a light blue pencil, but a blue pencil to start kind of defining some of the kind of patterning, not necessarily the color scheme, but the patterning of how I would want basic colors to be laid down so that I can make sure that there's a distribution of those colors, right? There's a lot going on with the character herself. There's a lot going on with the outfit itself. So I want to be considerate of the colors being able to be pretty well spread out throughout the piece and not having to have a lot of different colors to actually get the messaging across and to have it all appear pretty consistently, right? I want to be able to have the corset and some of the squares, diamonds on the pants be the same color, and then maybe the other alternate color for the diamonds be like the sleeve color and the back cape color, or darker variations of it, so that I'm not playing with too many hues and I can have a little bit more of a consistent color palette. Additionally, she already has colorful hair. She has a nice medium to deep blue hair color, so I want it to be kind of well spread out, right? The hair is going to be the same color probably as the corset and the squares, so there's a predominantly blue color palette. And then I'm thinking maybe blue and pink to be representative of her relationship with the wrinkled peach mushroom. Maybe that is something that will develop over time. She'll change the colors of her outfit. I'm not certain about that yet. But then that color is spread throughout the outfit, but it's broken up. So, the hair will be separated from the corset by the collar, which will then have that undersection that will kind of separate the big chunks of blue from the pants and make it easier to kind of digest the information, and it's not going to feel like too much of that color all in one place. It'll carry your eye throughout the piece as well, right? You're going to be looking at that one color and you're going to see it spread out evenly, so you're going to have the desire to continue looking down, continue looking throughout the piece and kind of identifying that color. Maintaining that kind of relationship will also make it so that I can color code my characters pretty effectively, so that once again, if I do approach a comic or little like doodle thumbnails of like things, I can rely predominantly on color to transfer that information, and I don't need to be super detailed in the outfit, right? I can be kind of flippant or a little more careless with excessive details and complete accuracy to proportions consistently, because I will have color-coded my characters effectively enough that I then don't need to worry about that information being lost or creating confusion, right? It's something that can get really difficult for me when watching shows. For example, the like stereotypical anime protagonist, the like basic like gray-eyed, straight, black, short hair dude who has a basic t-shirt and basic slacks and basic tennis shoes. They're all the same to me, and I can't actually tell them apart between completely separate shows, because there's not a lot of variety and distinction in those character designs, so they just kind of fade into the background. I want a character that stands out, captures your attention, and then you can continue to see them and identify them in large scale scenes. Where's Waldo? We can where's Waldo this character, just superimpose her where Waldo is, and you'll be able to find her and know that it's her and say, yep, that's it, that's who I'm looking for, there they are, so then I can have scenes of large crowds and a lot of characters, and it might take a minute, but you can look through and you can tell that she's different from everybody else. You can say, oh, that's our protagonist. And I don't need to completely rely on composition to convey that important information. Well, composition is important and it can be very necessary for conveying a lot of information. I want to also be able to create crowded situations, large overhead shots, where composition is almost irrelevant, and have you still be able to see and spot who you're supposed to be focusing on in the scene, identify the characters, and follow them through those journeys without having to worry about kind of thinking, how do I make sure they stand out in the scene against everybody else, right? And I've kind of already designed a mask for that other previous outfit I wasn't a huge fan of, so it only makes sense that I have at least one masquerade ball that I draw in my lifetime, and probably only one masquerade ball that I draw in my lifetime, because oh boy, do I hate ball gowns. I do not want to draw them ever if I do not absolutely have to. They drive me completely and utterly bonkers. I'm really like not a big dress sort of person. I rarely ever like to draw dresses, frankly. That's why she did inevitably end up in pants, and we kind of got rid of the skirt situation that was happening in trade for a more fun, kind of playful, kind of cape vibe. Pants are easier for me, and they're a lot looser, so I don't need to care as much about, worrying about the folds. I can be a little bit more playful with that. With that outfit kind of solidified, I did want to draw a little bit bigger so that I can kind of workshop some of the details and see that I liked it when it wasn't up against the other outfits that I just liked less, right? Sometimes if you have a bunch of stuff that you're not a huge fan of, your sketch can seem like brilliant, but then when you isolate it and it's alone, you realize you can still do better. You can still improve upon the idea. You can still think through the outfit perhaps a bit better, the character design, and it's just that was the shining star in comparison, but they're maybe not who you want to be focused on. Maybe you want to do a little bit more edits. So I flipped the page and I started sketching out a very basic kind of pose, straight, basic, not really caring for proportions too much. I tried to make the elbows line up with each other, made sure the knees and the feet ended at a similar place, but overall, doesn't matter if things are a bit elongated. This is about the outfit and not the character right now, right? Hands, claws, mittens, lettuce, whatever you want to call that thing, the Who hand, literally the Grinch. I don't care, because it's not important. We're not looking at the hands, we're looking at the fit, right? Fit check. We don't need to care. And that's how I have to approach a lot of information. If I care about the details that I am looking at, I am going to never actually make progress in a sketch or an idea or a concept, because I'm going to be like, but the hand's bad, I need to work on it. No, I have to scribble it out, because if I allow myself to care, then we're going to end up in a situation where things just absolutely never end, right? And I don't want to erase for most of these ideas. I erased one time because I messed up a pattern that I wanted to do, and I knew I messed it up immediately. And I tried not to erase after that at all, because these are supposed to be my raw ideas, like coming out of my brain. I don't want to be filtering them. I want them to exist in their rawest form, so that if I decide I don't like an outfit anymore, or I want to return to them, like I said, first outfit, probably a nightgown, I might actually use that later. I might actually unironically make that her nightgown. The Jester thing is her whole personality when at the Kingdom, right? And I might refer back to that, and I want it to look like it did. Now, I don't want to change it. I don't want to try and make it work. I want to save it for later, and if I do actually decide I like it, then I can workshop it again at a later date. But I've preserved the raw basic information, and I don't need to worry about that now. Like, I'm good, I'm solid, the vibe is set, and it's there. It's cataloged forever, so long as I don't light it on fire, which I have lit my art on fire before. And I should not be trusted with flammables, so it might happen, but it should be well preserved. And so basically blocking out the shapes of the outfit, figuring out if I can psychologically handle having to make the diamond folds kind of work with a pant fold, at least realistically enough that people will not think I'm crazy, was a nightmare that I was not super fond of having to work out or figure out if I was actually capable of, but it's not that bad. I've had worse patterns that I've put on folded clothes before, and because it's a goofy outfit and a goofy pattern, it's not something like super cute, super floral and dainty. I don't think it really matters if it's relatively inaccurate. I think it'll kind of make up for itself there. One thing I can say about this frontal sketch is that I genuinely do not know if I drew her head too small or if her outfit is just so big it makes her head look tiny. So it is something I'm going to have to worry about in the future, like making sure I do get the proportions correct, because the outfit swallows her in the lower region and the sleeves are just so big. But I like it. I like that it swallows her because it kind of makes her look unintimidating and kind of easy to move around, manipulate, dispose of, all of those things. You know, she looks non-threatening because her outfit is literally consuming her. And I like that. I like having that component to her character. And I didn't even think about it until after the fact, but it does create a feeling of innocence and like vulnerability to her that I think will benefit her narrative wise as well. I like it. I think it's a good thought. However, clearly the outfit isn't like super, super strong enough that I'm 100% confident drawing it without referring back to the original outfit, which I will say probably means that I might need to do a little bit more editing so that I can actually have an outfit that just completely comes naturally to me every single time and I don't need to keep checking, right? If I'm not remembering the components I thought up, maybe that means I need to workshop a little bit further, but I think this is nearly what I want for her as a character, and I'm very, very interested in seeing where the rest of the idea goes if I develop it. The shoes I'm thinking have potential for change, but I kind of like the idea of her wearing shoes that are easy to slip out of and doing most of her routines barefoot with goofy patterned socks on or something, because I don't really think the Jester shoes fit the character. I know that she's a jester, she's trying to overthrow the government, she really wants to fit in, but I think there are some aspects of her working class mentality that would be hard for her to get rid of or move on from. And one of those is like the practicality of things like shoes and the comfort of shoes. You know, she'd want something that's easy to move in, easy to walk in, easy to get in and out of, something very practical from a worker kind of standpoint, and that might be something she would be unwilling to compromise on. I know it's something I'm unwilling to compromise on. I don't believe in the whole beauty is pain mentality. It's not for me. I'm a you're beautiful if you're comfortable kind of person, right? Like, I'm not being uncomfortable for someone else to perceive me a certain way. And I think she would have a similar mentality because she's coming from that working class standpoint and she's surrounded by people who will always put themselves above her in terms of how they determine her worth compared to theirs. I don't think she would want to try and impress them in a sort of physical appearance capacity, simply kind of buy her time and not really kind of stand out too much as somebody who is against the class system, against the overall kind of scenario, against the beauty regime. However, is not completely willing to give up those kind of baseline morals for overall beauty and completely fitting in. Just awkward enough that you're like, but not off enough that it's like she's not conforming whatsoever, right? And off to the side, I did do a much smaller kind of side portrait idea, just so that I can kind of start thinking through what it would look like from the side and how I want to approach the idea of the skirt hip puff that I literally forgot about in the first drawing until like a fair bit later. But, you know, it's okay. It could have been a hell of a lot worse, right? Overall, the side profile was substantially more difficult than originally anticipated for me to visualize because I had not pulled up a reference of somebody wearing a corset from a side view. However, I don't really want it to be a super corsety corset, so I tried not to be too intense with myself about cinching in the waist and like drawing in the body too much. I tried to say, okay, well, we're not going to be super, super cinched because she is a jester, and the corset is more for design and for aesthetics and for kind of being in that middle ground that I've mentioned a couple times of like engaging in the beauty standards but not completely foregoing existing morals, because, you know, she is a jester. She is going to be working out, doing stunts, and she is planning to, overthrow the government. She doesn't want to be restrained, and a corset is just too much strain on the body. And in this time period, corsets were incredibly dangerous for women. They were not made and structured safely. And so it is completely unreasonable for her to have actually completely not foregone, but engaged in the practice and actually cinched it up and suppressed breathing and inhibited her kind of movement and control in that way. So I think that this is really loose. Like, you could probably grab it and like twist it to the side if you really wanted to, just on the basis that it doesn't make sense for an athletic individual and somebody engaging in something as kind of physically extreme as court jestering can be to inhibit their breathing. So I didn't worry too much about finding references of a cinched waist. Additionally, the sleeves are so puffy and the hip accessories are so puffy that it's going to cover a lot of that kind of actual aesthetic qualities a lot more. And it's not something that I'm really going to need to actually kind of worry about being concerned with in the future, right? There's so much frill and fluff to the size and the silhouette of the outfit, making her shape stand out and really kind of draw in your attention, that I'm not really sure that the corset not being a cinched corset is actually going to matter in any capacity or be like a noticeable component. Additionally, I haven't really thought about the back lacing of the corset too much, and I didn't have space on this paper for a back view, and I wasn't too worried about it because I really want to sketch out the dressing components for the skirt thing separately, not even attached to the body, to work it out at a later date. But I'm thinking that the straps are going to continue the kind of dot and star motif that I have all over her character, and the lace pattern is probably going to be pretty skewed and not super clean looking. I think it fits her character as not really knowing what she's doing. She doesn't have any handmaidens to actually help her get dressed. She's completely dependent on herself for getting ready for work in the morning, and so it also feels appropriate for the outfit to be a bit askew and not super like neatly and well done. And that is a component that I'm trying to remain aware of for her as a character overall. However, I do think that I've come close to talking plenty in this video, and I have put a lot of ideas for this character design out there and kind of posed it for you guys to now think about and express any feelings about if you have any. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end of this video, for taking the time to sit with me, listen to my theories, explore how I design an outfit, especially because I've never really designed such an intricate outfit before. I really appreciate you putting up with the brain kind of spiel that kind of came from it. Additionally, I would appreciate it if you like the video if you like it, dislike if you dislike, subscribe if you would like to see more of my content, check out my website if you'd like to see more of my portfolio, which is linked down below. Check out the video in the card if you want to hear more about the romance between these characters. And with all of this being said, I think I've talked more than enough. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And with all of this being said, bye-bye.